Here's Gain the Lead with your host, Tyler Renicker.
Yo. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome. Episode 8, I believe, of Gain the Lead. Glad to have you aboard. Whether you are joining us for 10 seconds, 10 minutes, or the entirety of the stream, we appreciate you being here. And by we, I mean me. A lot to talk about tonight, kind of. Obviously, I do want to lead off with TGL, which wrapped up probably about a half hour ago. For those of you who watched it, sorry. For those of you who didn't, you avoided the second straight blowout of the league. Unfortunately, these two matches so far have been terribly lopsided, and that makes it difficult to get into. Tonight, if you were unfamiliar, TGL is a new golf league that Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy have started. Partially virtual on a simulator, partially indoors on turf. And tonight, Tiger Woods was part of the action. His team was playing against his team is Jupiter Lynx, and they were playing LA Golf Club. And they lost 12-1. That's right. You heard me. 12-1. And they only play 15 holes. So, I guess is what you could say to that. It's entertaining. It really is. But, man, the blowouts are brutal to watch. Tiger's team, not good. Obviously, Tiger's exciting to watch, and anytime Tiger's swinging a golf club, you want to tune in and check it out. But, man, Kevin Kisner, that was some brutal golf out there today, buddy. I like Kevin, but man, the only hole that Jupiter Lynx won tonight, Kevin Kisner didn't take a shot. And I don't think it's a coincidence, with all due respect. Kevin did have the most interesting shot of the night. Why don't we take a peek at it? You know, just because we got nothing better to do, right? Let me load this up and see what. Yep, here we go. All right, let me get you over to the screen here. We'll start this over so we get the full blown appreciation for it here. So this is Kevin Kisner. This is a replay. He's hitting out of the bunker on a par 3. This is his hole. This is in singles. Just watch. I mean, are you serious, bro? And it gave laughs on laughs. But this dude, I mean, rockets a shot out of the road. And rattles the pin. This thing could have killed somebody if it doesn't hit the flag. This is going straight into the stands, rising. And it hits the pin and ricochets off. And at this point, the match was so out of hand that they didn't care. It was fun, obviously. But dude, these are professional golfers, and this is happening out there. So, I don't know. Tiger's getting some enjoyment out of it. I guess that's cool. But it's come on. What are we actually doing here? And if that's the most entertaining thing that happens in your golf league, you got stuff to figure out. And I want to like this. I'm a golfer. I think it could be interesting. But to watch Kevin Kisner hosel rocket one right to the pin and it ricochets 50 feet over 50 yards away, This guy's a professional golfer playing with Tiger Woods. Hello? I mean, honestly, I think it would be a really cool idea if TGL wanted to get some single digit handicappers and throw them out there and see how they do against the professionals on a simulator. I think it'd be awesome. I volunteer. I could get a team and be down in Florida, in a few weeks for that. But honestly, like, figure out something cooler to make this thing take off and make the matches closer. Like, I admire what they're trying to do. I do. But both of these have been, I mean, blowout is an understatement. Both of these have been not close after the first 3 holes. So you've got some things to figure out. The hammer is like a good idea. I explained that in a previous episode. If you want to catch up, go back and listen. I believe episode 6. But I mean, we got some things to figure out here. So cool overall tonight. I mean, yeah, I guess it was fun to watch, but total blowout. And Tigers team is going to play 2 straight weeks. So hopefully, when they take the field, turf again, it'll be a little closer. That's what we have to hope for. So that's all the time I think I'm going to actually spend on TGL. I know most of you probably aren't tuning into that and don't care, which is fine. I get it. But if you're interested in jumping into maybe some golf that you have not seen before, tune in next Tuesday. Give it 10 minutes of your time, and hopefully it'll be a closer match than it was tonight. I do want to visit a little bit about college basketball. I think we're getting into the teeth of the conference season now, where you really start to find out what some of these teams are made of. As a Purdue fan, I enjoy college basketball, and I have for the past several years. College basketball does not get its due. College basketball is a beautiful sport. I personally love it because I believe that coaching is vitally important in college basketball. The separation between a good coach and a bad coach is a absolute chasm. Like it is night and day. And the most immediate frame of reference I have, and this is going to rub probably some of you the wrong way, but it is Matt Painter and Mike Woodson. Like, you could not get 2 more different coaches in their philosophies and how they handle the game. And you can see the massive difference in results. I mean, Indiana blown out again tonight. This is 2 straight games they've lost by 25 plus points. This one was at home. And IU fans don't really stand for this kind of thing. If you're not used to college basketball, if you're new to the sport, whatever, Indiana University has a rich history and a solid tradition. None of it happened when I was alive, but trust me, before I was alive and a lot of my friends were alive, they were good. Just ask anybody older than me. However, in our lifetimes, Indiana has not been good. They made the national championship 1 game in 2002 and lost that one with Mike Davis at the helm. That was very shortly after he took over for Bob Knight. And since then, IU has been in like this weird purgatory of like, they're kind of good for some seasons and they get some decent talent, but they've never really had the coaching to make it great. They've never had the coaching to get them out of the basement. So I think that's a tough spot if you're an IU fan and if you enjoy watching college basketball in Indiana, the birthplace and the home of basketball. Indiana's been a tough watch. Now, the flip side of that coin is Matt Painter. Matt Painter is a very good basketball coach. He goes after these recruits who are not heralded, who are not full of stars and these guys that all these blue bloods are chasing, your Dukes and your North Carolinas and your Kansas and Kentucky. IU likes to get caught up in some of that, and the hype drives the fan base, right? You bring in 5-star recruits, you bring in the great talent from all over the country to Indiana, which has again this rich history and tradition. And if you don't have a coach that knows how to put a game plan together to bring these guys into a team and not just 5 separate guys running around, you've got problems. And that's what you're seeing with Indiana right now. Indiana is coached by Mike Woodson, who is an NBA coach. He coaches in an NBA style. And in the NBA, you have teams that are just a bunch of dudes. Like, yeah, they have some continuity and yeah, they've played together, but they're professionals, and every single one of those guys in the NBA is a great player on his own merit. And that's how Mike Woodson's coaching Indiana. He's finding these recruits, he's finding these transfers that are awesome players on their own merit. They're excellent. But when you put those 5 guys out together on the floor against a team that is well coached, that has a lot of experience together, you're running into serious problems because you can't just play hero ball every night like Indiana's trying to do. And they have excellent talent on the floor. It's talent is not Indiana's problem. They were one of the best teams in the transfer portal this offseason. Umar Ballo from Arizona, Miles Rice from Washington State. You had Trey Galloway back. You've got Mackenzie Mbako, who is going to be an NBA draft pick. You've got talent on that team. And Malik Renew, who's back. I think he's been hurt, but regardless, the talent is there. So if you had a coach that could mesh these guys together and help them figure out how to play as a unit, it would be amazing. But they don't have that. And you compare that to a Purdue who goes out and finds the unheralded diamonds in the rough. Your Zach Edey, right? Zach Edey is a 432nd ranked recruit in his recruiting class back in 2020, and no one cared about him. There was like 2 Power 5 schools that even recruited Zach Edey, and he ends up coming to Purdue. Matt Painter sees something in him, obviously, and he develops there. And Matt Painter's coaching that team as a team. They run plays, they run sets, they're helping each other, and he puts a bunch of unselfish guys on the court together that care about the name on the front of the jersey, not the name on the back. And that is a massive, massive difference in college basketball. I can't overstate that. And to be frank, I mean, I'm probably a little biased as a Purdue fan, but that's what I love about the game. And that's what the NBA is missing. The NBA is a showboat league. It's a bunch of guys who, like, they're talented. There's no doubt. But they don't play as a team. None of those guys. You bring the ball up the floor, half the shot clock's gone, and you clear out the side, and the guys are just crossing people over, and then they back up and just throw it up. Steph Curry, look at him. Like, he's an amazing talent. Undeniably one of the best players to ever play basketball. But they don't play as a team. Like, it's hard to watch because they're not running sets. They're not really screening for each other. It's just like, it's very basic and simple formations. So the coaching in the NBA, I mean, I guess it matters. I'd be wrong if I said it didn't matter. But coaching in college basketball is so much more of a separation. And that's what I love about it. So you're getting into conference play now. So you're playing teams that are in presumably your tier, right? Purdue has started off the conference season pretty well. They're 4-1. The only loss they have was to Penn State a few weeks ago, back in that couple game like intro to conference play back before Christmas, right? So Purdue's figured out a lot of things without Zach Edey, which is huge. Obviously, it took them some time because Zach Edey's the 2-time National Player of the Year. You don't just like hop back on the court and seamlessly transition to life without that guy, right? But credit to Matt Painter. He's experimented with a few lineups. He's found, again, guys who care more about the name on the front of the jersey than the back. And I'm talking mainly about Caleb First here. Caleb First is a senior for Purdue. He has ridden the bench the last 2 years after being Indiana Mr. Basketball, which is, maybe a stretch, but one of the top 50 players probably in America. He comes to Purdue to play college ball, plays a little bit as a freshman and sophomore, and then junior and senior, or mostly as a freshman. Sophomore and junior years, he drops off because Zach Edey is obviously coming in and taking majority of the minutes. And now as a senior, this guy has played like 2 or 3 minutes a game for the last couple of years. He gets inserted into the starting lineup a few games ago, and lo and behold, this guy is starting to ball. Like, I think it was a little bit of a mental hurdle for him to get over, to go from a bench warmer to like a starter again as a senior. But he's found kind of his niche. He's found what he needs to go do to help Purdue win, and he's doing that. And it's really cool to watch. And all the credit in the world goes to Matt Painter for finding these guys that buy into Purdue and the system and say, I don't need to come in as a freshman and take some guy's job. I need to come in and develop and become a great basketball player by watching these guys who are already great playing for Purdue. I love having team success. I want to win, and however the team can win, that's what I want to do to help the team. That's how Purdue recruits. And if I was a college basketball coach, which I will never be, but I'm following Matt Painter wherever he goes and offering anybody Matt Painter offers, because somehow Matt Painter can identify talent and get those guys to maximize their potential. He's finding guys who will not be recruited by any other major team. CJ Cox is another great example this year. He's a freshman. He had no high major offers. He was being recruited by Ivy League schools. And now here he is as a freshman starting for a top 25 team that was in the national championship last year. And he's balling. And it's like, where does Matt Painter find these guys? But he has an eye for this talent that very few other coaches have. And I think it's very awesome. It's admirable. I hope that this NIL era of college sports doesn't chase Matt Painter away. If I was a college coach that was used to coaching kids that were interested in academics and wanted to play some ball while they were in school, great. But this has changed so much about what college sports is and what people loved about college sports. Now, I think Matt Painter can find the right guys where the NIL is a nice perk, but it's not the main driving force. And I hope that he can continue to do that as kids come into the program. And you've got to keep those guys from being a cancer. That's the goal, right? So again, college basketball conference play is starting. The Big Ten is a little bit up in the air right now. You've got probably a half dozen teams that are in that top tier of the Big Ten that could get hot and win it. I'm looking mainly at Michigan State, Illinois, Purdue, Wisconsin. Maybe they've got the talent. Greg Gard, I'm not totally sure as a coach has got the cojones to get his team where they need to be. They've got a lot of transfers, and I guess we'll see how it goes. But I would put them in that top tier. Past that, I don't think anybody else is going to get up there. Oregon looked really good in the non-conference, but they've dropped a couple, and they've looked pretty beatable in the last few games. So I don't know that Oregon is in that top tier. I would put them probably in the second tier. But overall, the 18-team Big Ten, this is the first year, for that in the first basketball season for that. So it's a little bit hectic. Purdue is on their way out to the West Coast today. I believe they flew out to Seattle for a game tomorrow against Washington. And then they will be in Eugene, Oregon, as will I on Saturday to play Oregon. So that'll be a cool trip out west for those guys. these guys are college athletes. They're young. I don't think a flight out to the West Coast is going to affect them like it would, a guy in the NBA or in their early 30s. I think these guys are young enough to where they can sleep on a plane and recover pretty quickly and play on the West Coast. Purdue needs to sweep their West Coast trip, I think, to maintain their grip on potentially winning the Big Ten. I think they can easily do it. A couple other teams have already done it, and I think it can definitely be done. So we'll look for that. Tomorrow night, Purdue plays at 9:30 Eastern, late tip, and Washington is not a good basketball team. So we'll look to see Purdue take care of business early in that one, and then excited to be out in Eugene on Friday and Saturday this week. So. As far as other conferences in college basketball, the SEC is really the only other, crazy powerhouse conference that has, teams littered in the top 10. Auburn, I've mentioned a couple times already in this season. Auburn, I think, is head and shoulders above everybody else. The only thing that was going to derail Auburn is injuries. And lo and behold, Johni Broome, who was the runaway national player of the year as long as he didn't get hurt, got hurt. Has a bad ankle, and for a 7-foot guy, a bad ankle is not a good thing to have. So that has made Auburn a little bit more vulnerable right now. I don't know the extent of Johni Broome's injury. For the sake of the game, I hope he's able to come back by the tournament, and we can see Auburn at full strength. I think that would be cool. We'll see about that. The other teams in the SEC have absolutely have ability to go and win it. Now that Auburn is knocked down a notch, I'm talking about Tennessee, talking about Florida, talking about Alabama, even Ole Miss, who beat Alabama tonight. You've got a host of teams that can go and win the SEC, and the SEC is going to be a 10 or 12 bid league probably in the NCAA tournament. And the SEC historically has not really been a basketball conference. I forgot to mention Kentucky. So you've got a lot of those teams in the SEC that are very good this year. That is going to be definitely the most competitive conference. The ACC is really a one-man race. I don't see anybody competing with Duke in the ACC. They're playing as we speak and are up 57-33 on Miami, which is a conference game. Miami is atrocious this season. 4-12 and winless in conference play, 0-5. So Duke taking care of business and taking care of what they need to do this season. In Miami's defense, Miami's basketball coach did resign in the middle of the season. So that's a tough one to overcome. None of those players, I'm sure, expected that. So they've got an interim head coach. They've had to kind of, circle the wagon, so to speak, and they've not been able to do that. So not a great basketball game, but Duke's a great team, and they've got the best college player in the country in Cooper Flagg. That guy is going to be an insane pro. He's one of the better prospects we've seen in the college game probably since Zion Williamson, and Zion didn't really pan out. But Cooper Flagg is pretty unbelievable. He's a athletic specimen. I mean, he's like 6'10", super wide, long wingspan, like 7'6" or something wingspan. The guy is going to be a hell of an NBA player. Absolutely the number one draft pick, without a doubt. And it's fun to watch him play college ball. I mean, he was even on I believe he was on the Olympic basketball scout team back last summer. Yeah. And he was giving NBA players the business. So and that was when he was like 17 years old. So a year of college ball will help him to get even better, even more elevated in his game, and he will be a problem in the league. But cool to watch him play for Duke. I don't know. I guess nobody really does anybody really like Duke? Maybe not, but they get some real talent, and it's fun to watch a guy who is a transcendent generational talent play basketball. So tune into Duke if you want to watch something like that. But yeah, I'm excited for the conference races to tighten up a little bit. Always look forward to March and college basketball. I do want to touch a little bit on the NFL playoffs. We had some pretty good games in the NFL playoffs this weekend. A couple blowouts. It is what it is. But we had a couple games that came down to the wire, which you always like to see. I mean, that's what gets ratings up. That's when people flip over to the game to watch the last however many minutes of the game. The blowouts were obviously the Texans and the Chargers were the first game. The Texans looked unbelievable after people were crapping on them the entire week, thinking they didn't have a chance in this game to beat the Chargers, and lo and behold, they took it to the Chargers. So Texans will move on to play the Chiefs, the 1 seed. The Ravens and Steelers was a blowout. Bills and Broncos was a blowout. I'm sorry, I probably need to be telling you these scores. Blowout doesn't really tell you a whole hell of a lot. Texans beat the Chargers 32-12. Ravens took it to the Steelers, and it was not this close, 28-14. The Bills beat the Broncos 31-7, and that actually was closer than that score suggests. The Broncos actually missed a field goal going into the halftime break to tie it up at 10. So that game could have been 10-10 at halftime, and the Bills win at 31-7. So the Broncos kind of rolled over in the second half. Oh well, that they overachieved this year anyway. I mean, nobody expected Denver to be in the playoffs, and there they were with a rookie quarterback. So anything you were able to do in the playoffs was going to be icing. And when you drew the Bills in Buffalo, I don't know what you'd expect. The Buccaneers and Commanders was a really good game. Not as high scoring as we thought with a couple great offenses, but it had all the drama you could want. Commanders win it 23-20 on a last-second field goal that was banked in off the right upright. So drama galore in that one, and Jaden Daniels, as a rookie quarterback, wins a playoff game in his first season. So for all you Washington fans who have not won a playoff game since 2006, congratulations, that's cool. Enjoy it with a rookie quarterback, because you get, as a reward for winning that game, you get to go play the Lions in Detroit. So road might be hitting a roadblock here very shortly for you. But yeah, soak up the playoff win. A playoff win's a playoff win. Eagles and Packers was kind of close. Eagles win 22-10. The Packers had a couple chances to pull pretty close to the Eagles in this game, but the Packers basically lost every single receiver to injury. And even if you have a great quarterback, and I don't know if I'd call Jordan Love a great quarterback, but he's pretty good. Even when you've got a decent quarterback, if he doesn't have the receivers to throw to, I don't know what you expect him to do. The guys that were out on the field couldn't create separation, not running the right routes. It was kind of a mess. So even if the Packers would have won that game, it would have been a real shame to send them to Detroit to play the Lions. It would have been embarrassing. So I think everybody kind of wins with the Packers losing. Even though I am a minority owner in the Packers, I think it's good that we just end the season there. Let's go back and regroup a little bit, make sure Josh Jacobs is with the team. Let's get the receivers healthy again, start the offseason, and move on. The final game of the week was the Rams and the Vikings. The Rams win this one 27-9, and this was kind of a beatdown. The Rams out of LA, this game got moved to Glendale, Arizona due to the wildfires in LA. And by wildfires, I of course mean man-made started fires in LA. And any LA organization has been definitely in mobilized and galvanized and really, I don't know. Most LA teams have a fire lit under their ass right now because of what's going on where they're from, and I wouldn't want to be playing any LA team in the next couple weeks. You just those kinds of things, those major events, tend to galvanize teams, and they become the team of destiny, if you will. And I wouldn't want to run into LA right now. I'll tell you that. But the Vikings looked lost, to say the least, last night. Sam Darnold, who everybody kind of, I don't know, had questions about coming into the season, obviously, because he'd never really put together a great year. Sam Darnold was excellent this year, but last night he looked like old Sam Darnold. And so the Vikings have a lot of questions going into the offseason. Namely, do you pay Sam Darnold to still be your quarterback next year and beyond? Do you give him that chance? I'm a lot less certain today than I was yesterday about that. Maybe you franchise tag him. I don't know, but the Vikings, they go 14-3 in the regular season, which is outstanding. But to come out and lay an egg like that in the playoffs, that's a tough one to swallow for ownership, for leadership, for coaching staff, even for Darnold. So that's going to be a long offseason for Minnesota. But moving on, the matchups, I actually think the remaining 8 teams are mostly the best teams that we had left. The Chiefs, obviously, as the 1 seed, are heavy favorites against the Texans. 8-point favorites on Saturday at 4:30. We'll see how that game goes. I've mentioned this multiple times on this podcast so far. The Chiefs are not the unbeatable powerhouse that they've been over the last several years. So now, obviously, they won 15 games this year, and you don't just stumble into winning 15 games. That's a really good season. But they easily could have lost 5 to 7 of those games. I mean, they played in so many close games this season that kind of just broke their way. And obviously, if you're a good team, you've got to be a good team for those to break your way. But we'll see. I mean, this is the playoffs. Anything can happen. Texans already won a game. They're going to be feeling pretty good. And, we'll see what happens in Arrowhead. The other AFC game is Bills-Ravens, and that is going to be an all-timer. Don't miss that game. That is Sunday at 6:30 this weekend. I mean, these two teams are awesome. Both of these teams have everything to play for. They've had a couple really good seasons in the last few years and have really nothing to show for it. And so the pressure's kind of on now for these teams to show up and go win some games and get to a Super Bowl. And one of them's going to lose this game. And that's going to be tough for them, but that means at least, one of them is going to advance. So that'll be an awesome football game. Definitely tune into that one. The NFC playoffs are a little less appealing, less spicy, whatever. But, ultimately in the NFC, I think everybody wants to see Lions and Eagles, obviously outside of Commanders and Rams fans. But the Lions and the Eagles have been far and away the best 2 teams in the NFC all season. So it would be very fitting for them to play in the NFC Championship game. I think Detroit is favored by 9.5 against the Commanders. The only way I see the Commanders winning this is Detroit's defense is very banged up, but this is going to be a playoff game in Detroit. Their fans are rabid, and they have not been a 1 seed in the playoffs ever, ? So Detroit's going to be insane during this game on Saturday. I don't see the Commanders being able to stick with Detroit. I just don't. So I think the Lions are going to win that one going away. Give me the Lions in that one. I don't know what else to say about that. That's just going to be a tough game. Eagles and Rams, this is going to be a lot better game. Philly is favored by 6 points, which I feel like is a lot. after especially what I just mentioned with LA being kind of team of destiny with what's going on at home. The Eagles have looked good. The Eagles are a very good football team, but and to their credit, the Eagles did demolish the Rams the first time they played. I mean, they made the Rams look silly. So they're probably taking that into consideration here when with the line and with what's going to happen in this game. But the playoff football is different, man. I think the Eagles are vulnerable. I think they've got rookies on their defense in serious positions. I think you've got Cooper DeJean at safety. You've got Quinyon Mitchell at a corner, and both of those guys are rookies, and they've got only one playoff game under their belt against a bunch of backup receivers for the Packers. So I think Puka Nakua and Cooper Kupp are going to be a totally different challenge for them. I think the Rams, Matt Stafford is a playoff tested quarterback. He knows what he's doing. I think the Rams give the Eagles everything they can handle this weekend. I like the Rams +6 in that game. I do ultimately think the Eagles will scrape that one out, but that is not going to be an easy football game for Philadelphia. It will be in Philly, which will help them, but again, Rams kind of team of destiny type thing going on. So we'll see how it unfolds. But ultimately, in the Super Bowl, man, my predictions aren't worth jack, to be honest with you. It's been really rough this year. I'm gonna have to get a lot better at what I'm doing and how I'm kind of making some of these decisions. But I'm gonna go with the Bills and the Lions in the Super Bowl, mainly because that's what I want to see. I think it'd be awesome to watch those two teams fight for a Super Bowl because both of those fan bases deserve it, and really neither one of them has had any success ever. So to have one of those teams go and win a Super Bowl would be epic. The gathering of people in New Orleans for that game would be indescribable. It would be insane. Bourbon Street would be so lit, unbelievably lit. So that would be cool. That's what I'm hoping for. So go Bills, go Lions, yay football. Um, as far as what else, here's the deal: is I made this podcast to talk sports, right? I watch a lot of sports. I know a fair share, definitely not like the most knowledgeable by any means, but I like talking sports. I like being able to watch it. Um, I kind of want to like transition into off-season topics and like start talking a little more like life with you people. I don't necessarily know what that looks like yet in concrete terms, but I think what I want to start doing is I want to try to find some interviews. I want to try to talk like drafts. I want to do like drafts of random things, right? Um, I would welcome any ideas for those things. So like a top 10 sandwiches or a top 10 um, vacation destinations or whatever. And I think being able to draft some of those things and stir up some conversation and some debate would be a fun thing to do once football's kind of over and we're into the sports that don't matter. Um, so yeah, I mean, hit me with ideas if you've got them. I would love to hear them. I'm definitely open, but I do want to get talking a little bit more like casually for those of you who aren't like diehard sports and all I want to hear about is sports. Um, I like playing video games from time to time with kids now. That doesn't really happen for me much anymore, but would be happy to talk. I still watch some of those guys, some of the streamers that stream video games. Your Tim the Tatman, your Ninja, those types of guys, Nick Merckx. So yeah, I mean, be happy to talk about gaming and what's new there. I would just be interested to hear what you guys want to hear about. Obviously, my opinions are my own and may not matter to many of you, which is totally fine. I am doing this podcast for me because I feel like it, and I've had this idea to do this podcast for many years, and I just decided to pull the trigger. So I appreciate those of you who do join in and want to, join in the conversation and listen and participate and give ideas. I honestly, I would welcome any of you that are listening on as a guest to interview. And we can, we can have some back and forth just about, we can do a draft. I can have guests on to draft stuff with me. So that way there's a little bit of a feeling of like, damn, I wish I would have taken that one pick earlier. I think that'd be a good time. So, yeah, I'm hoping to make this a little bit more, um, I don't know, relatable, friendly, whatever. Um, I've had some up and down, weeks since Christmas as far as what's been going on in our life, in our house. We've had some sick kids, which has been great. But ultimately, we're excited to be back in getting back into the swing of things in 25. We've got some cool trips planned in 2025. We, I think 2025 is going to be a good year. So, looking forward to obviously chatting with you guys every couple times a week, and we hope that this can grow and get a little bit more participation. But if you have any ideas of maybe people I can interview that might be interesting that you want to hear from, I'd love to reach out to them on X.com, the Everything app. Everything's happening on X. Um, I would rather not. I don't know. I think getting political views involved is a dangerous game to play. For those of you who know me well, you know where I stand. For those of you who don't, let's just keep it like that. That you don't have to know where I stand politically. Um, I think that's the most divisive topic in this country right now, in this world right now, is politics, and I'd like to stay out of that preferably. But I'd be happy to chat. There's some things that I'm kind of getting into in the last several months with, trying to prepare me and my household and my family for things that, unforeseen things that come up. One thing that I think is a very real possibility in this world today is we are so internet based as a society that we are outrageously vulnerable in the majority of our lives if the internet were to just die. I mean, I don't know technology, so let's preface it with that. But how hard would it be for some guy in Russia to just shut it all down, right? Like, there's people on the dark web that know more about the internet. They've forgotten more about the internet than I'll ever know. And I mean, something tells me that these supercomputer hackers, if they wanted to, they could just shut it all down and watch the world burn. And I feel like our society in general in the last 20 years has pivoted so crazy heavy to like everything we do is internet based and cloud based. Like everything down to our money, right? Like our all of our finances are everybody's are just in the air, in the cloud. And it's like if the internet just goes away, if somebody just decides to wipe it, what happens? We're thrown back into medieval times of bartering, and you learn a trade and you barter your skills and your trade with people for food and for childcare, and you live with your families and you grow your own food and you clean your own water. And I don't know. I don't know what happens because, here we are living in a society where like everybody carries around plastic to pay for things and everything's just in the air. And I don't know. Maybe that's being overly psychotic or whatever. But those are the thoughts that run through my mind. So um, definitely would be happy to share some of that if anybody's interested. Talk through some of that. I'd love to have some people on as far as interviews go that might know a little bit more about those types of topics. But I think I think most people have just kind of been lulled to sleep in the last several years of like, this is just the rhythm of our life. And if the internet were to just poof, be wiped or be inaccessible, what happens? Like, do we all just, I mean, do we turn into a barbaric society? I don't know. I don't know the answer, but I think it's an interesting topic to think about. So that's the stuff. That's the stuff that runs through my mind that I find interesting. Maybe some of you will. Maybe some of you will hate me now. So thanks for listening. If I lost you, and if you're interested in that, welcome aboard. Last part of the show that we do every time, except for last episode because I forgot, is King of the Hill. And the King of the Hill is, if you're unfamiliar,
Now here's King of the Hill.
Is kind of just the person who had a great few days, good week, or they won something cool, or they deserve recognition. That's who the King of the Hill is. And I've been trying to think through this, kind of while I'm sitting here, and it may not make much sense to any of you as far as timing goes, but I caught an interview today, and I'm giving today's King of the Hill to Tucker Carlson, because when Fox News fired that guy last year, everybody was kind of like, wait, what? Like that was their face. That was who they had on their network, and they just fired him. And credit to Tucker, that dude is doing numbers on X.com. He's moved his show to X, and that guy gets insane viewership. I saw he had an interview. Forgive me, I don't know the guy's name, but he had an interview on this week. I think it might have just come out today, with a guy, a journalist, and he may not call himself a journalist, but he's basically an investigative journalist based in LA, and he does a little bit of research into the wildfires and kind of what is happening there. Michael Schellenberger is his name. And they chatted for a little over 2 hours, and talked, details on the wildfires in LA. How did they start? Kind of what's happening there, and what's, how the perfect storm happened to blow these fires up into mass catastrophe, hundreds of billions of dollars of loss, versus, oh shoot, we need to contain this fire in this small little neighborhood, and we can do it because we have the water. So interesting interview, but Tucker is getting insane viewership on these interviews. This video that was released to last night, so about 26 or 27 hours ago, 2.4 million views, which actually is not super great for Tucker. But I saw Elon Musk had reposted this interview today, and that had 25 million views. So even if Tucker's not the one posting it, he's getting, massive viewership on X, and that's cool. I know I know it's kind of funny that I was just talking about, how we all are internet based and what's going to happen if there's no internet. And then I'm like, oh yeah, he moved his thing to internet based and it's taking off. So good for him. But credit where credit's due. It's working for him. And until it doesn't, it will work. So, yeah.
Now here's King of the Hill,
Tucker Carlson. All right. That's going to be it for tonight. Thank you for joining us. Again, for those of you that did, please do follow me. I am going to ask you that now, instead of just mentioning this is what my handles and stuff are. But if you're listening, please follow me. Twitter, I do try to tweet about relevant events going on. You can find me on Twitter at x.com at realgtl. REALGTL. I'm also on Spotify. If you wanted to listen to just the audio portion, you can find the podcast on Spotify. And then I'm also uploading the video file to YouTube. So check me out on YouTube at Gain the Lead. And Twitch. I think I'm streaming on Twitch. I'm trying anyway. I don't know because I don't think I've ever had a single viewer on Twitch. But check me out on Twitch if you want, if you're there. Happy to have you along if you are there somehow that I'm missing you. But check me out on Twitch at Tyler Gained the Lead. As far as next episode, I am going to try to do an episode from Eugene, I think. That's assuming technology works out. That's assuming I have the time. That's assuming I have the wherewithal to get on and talk to y'all for an hour plus. So we'll see if all those stars align. If so, I will be live from Eugene. And if for some reason that does not end up happening, I will jump on probably a week from tonight, next Tuesday, after the next TGL event. Would love to hear from you again. Please, if you have any ideas as far as drafts, as far as interviews, as far as topics you want to hear about, talk about, whatever, let me know. And until I see you all and talk to you all again, this has been Gained the Lead. Have a lovely, lovely evening.